All right, guys, I have a Throwback Thursday morning editorial for you. This is not a throwback, that's coming later. This is an actual editorial that happened this week out of North Carolina, and 3 cops are out of jobs, or for now, because of their mouths. They ran them a little too much. Now I'm going to get people who go, you know what, free speech, dude. Aren't you for the First Amendment? Aren't you for free speech? Yeah, but this isn't about free speech. This is about attitude. The attitudes of 3 cops on the streets. We can intelligently deduce that these guys are probably profiling and violating civil rights of African Americans because of what they're saying. This isn't just free speech. This goes beyond free speech. This goes into the realm of attitudes of cops on the streets of North Carolina. So I'm going to give you the editorial. I'm going to put a link to this story in the description box below. I'm going to read something from the Internal Affairs document that you can also look at. If you click the link below, at the bottom of that story, there's a link that says click here to view the documents, and it says warning graphic content. Well, I'm going to read some of that to you here this morning. Not just the editorial, but I'm going to read some of the things from the Internal Affairs investigation that was released to the public, the documents. So let's jump into it. Thank you, WATV3.com. 3 Wilmington police officers have been fired in the wake of racist and threatening comments caught on tape. During a news conference Wednesday afternoon, Police Chief Donnie Williams announced Michael K. Piner, Jesse Moore II, and James B. Gilmore were terminated Tuesday. Donnie Williams said, quote, "This is the most exceptional and difficult case I have ever encountered in my career." Williams, who made the announcement on his first official day as police chief, says the 3 now former officers were caught using racial slurs, offensive comments, and threats of violence. During a monthly video audit on June 4th, police say they came across a 2-hour-long video from Piner's car camera that was classified as accidental activation. During that time, they say Piner was heard making derogatory comments about African Americans and recent protests. Police say the video goes on to record Piner and Gilmore discussing protests in Wilmington, North Carolina. Piner is heard making offensive comments about other officers and discussing their handling of recent protests. Later on in the video recording, Piner is heard talking to Moore on the phone, where Moore is heard reportedly using racial slurs, including the N-word, and making racially charged comments about African Americans, including a magistrate. Moore and Piner also criticized the handling of recent downtown protests, making derogatory comments about Chief Williams. Chief Donnie Williams was quoted as saying, "Morale just hasn't been at its best. Some officers may feel that they're not liked right now, but I will say this, resilience. They continue to come to work. They work long hours and they do what we ask them to do. As I said earlier, we have some great officers. My biggest fear with all of this is the good will be painted with the same brush that the bad will be painted with." Wilmington police say Moore, Piner, and Gilmore were each interviewed individually on June 9th. They say each now former officer admitted it was their voice on the recording and did not deny any of the comments made in the video. The men reportedly went on to say the stress of today's climate in law enforcement was a reason for their venting, and each of them denied being racist. Wait till you hear what they say, or they're quoted as saying in the Internal Affairs investigation. Moore wanted it on record that he was off duty at his own house and his own phone when he spoke to Piner over the phone. Police say Moore added he's not racist and was venting, and that call combined with recent protests had him extremely stressed and embarrassed about the things he said in the video. Well, he said, "I'm off duty," or "I was off duty on my own phone." It goes beyond speech. This is attitude. Yeah, you may have been off duty then, Moore, but that attitude you displayed goes right into when you have that uniform on and you're walking the streets. Moving on. On Wednesday afternoon, Mayor Bill Saffo said City Council voted unanimously to release the personnel files for all 3 men, which he says is usually kept private. Mayor Saffo said, quote, "I was sickened by the violent and destructive language used by these officers. It was absolutely despicable. We believe that it was a matter that needed our urgent attention And in an effort to support transparency and increase the level of trust in our community, we agreed unanimously to release the information that has been shared with all of you today. New Hanover County's NAACP President Deborah Maxwell made it clear she's satisfied with the department's handling of the situations. She said, quote, "Remember they did this, not anyone else. It was an internal cam on a car. It wasn't Deborah the citizen who calling them. So then we must commend them for taking care of their own business, which took care of us." Police say they're determining whether the car camera footage can be legally released, that's the dash cam, and say they will petition a judge in order to get it released. The former officers will be banned from working for the city ever again, and Wilmington police will talk with the district attorney to investigate whether any prior discrimination could have occurred during their careers. That's what I pointed out. According to their personnel files, all three men have worked for the department for more than 20 years. How many people have they violated over those 20 years? We want to know. Chief Williams says he will be meeting with every current officer individually in July, and they will undergo implicit bias training. He adds he wants to incorporate citizens in their hiring process and even into their policing process when possible. That's what you need. Guys, there you go. It's in the description box below. I'm not done yet, though. Let's get to the documents, the Internal Affairs investigation. So in the Internal Affairs investigation document, we read where it's reported, a short time later, Piner says he knew Michael Scott, that's Black Officer Michael Scott, was bad news and was a POS. Piner then says, let's see how his boys take care of him when shit gets rough. See if they don't put a bullet in his head. That's reference another officer, a fellow officer. At 1 hour and 14 minutes into the video, Officer Piner received a phone call from Corporal Jesse Moore, a corporal with stripes. A short time later, after the conversation began, Moore began telling Piner about an arrest he made at work at the day before. During that conversation, Moore refers to the female he arrested as a negro and N-word on multiple occasions. He also describes Magistrate Daniel, a judge who is African American, as an effing negro magistrate. Effing negro magistrate. At one point, Moore states she needed a bullet in her head right then and move on. Let's move the body out of the way and keep going. Piner responds, that's what I've been trying to tell you. And they're talking about a judge. Moore continued the story about the call, referring to the arrestee as a bitch, crazy bitch, several times. Moore explained how he called for Sergeant Tully to come to the call to assist him. Moore explained how he almost had to break the female's car window out because she was uncooperative. He said Sergeant Tully did not want Moore to do that. Piner replied, he's a pussy. They're all pussies. Talking about the sergeants in their department. Why? Because they're people persons? Because they're there for the community? These cops needed to be fired. There's one I want to get to real quick here. But you can read, man, there is so much here. And these guys, they're talking. You guys are going to be shocked to see what these cops were talking about. I'm just like, wow. But I want to read this to you right here. This is what I'm going to close this with. So Piner tells Moore, according to the Internal Affairs investigation document, later in the conversation that he feels a civil war is coming in. He's ready. Piner advised he is going to buy a new assault rifle in the next couple weeks. A short time later, Officer Piner began to discuss society being close to martial law and said, soon we're just going to go out and start slaughtering them effing N-words. I can't wait. God, I can't wait. Moore responded that he would not do that. Piner stated, I'm ready. So a cop, oh, and it goes on. I'm going to do this next paragraph too. So a cop said, I'm going to go buy me a new assault rifle. I can't wait to start slaughtering them effing N-words. That's what this cop says. He goes on, explained to Corporal Moore that he felt society needed a civil war to wipe them off the effing map. That'll put them back about 4 or 5 generations. Corporal Moore responded, "You're crazy." The recording was stopped a short time later. He wants to wipe blacks off the effing map. This cop, police officer. And some of you go, it's free speech, dude. That goes beyond free speech. That's an attitude. That's something that he's enacting on the street. When he arrests somebody, he's enacting that. He ain't just arresting people. He's probably pushing their head into the cement. He's probably swinging them around into the car going, well, he's resisting. He's one of those cops. And that's why I record the cops every single day. Now, I record a lot of good, professional, courteous, community-based, community-oriented officers. I do. A lot of deputies, even some police officers that are courteous. They're out there to do the right thing. But cops like this right here, that's the biggest reason I'm recording you law enforcement officers. These guys right here. Not you guys that are nice and, hey, how's it going, buddy? And professional and just trying to communicate with the community. You guys just happen to be lumped in there because you got to record 12 good cops before you find that one right here. You have to record 14 cops to find those two assholes. So 12 of them, you just happen to fall into my camera video. You're nice, but those two assholes that are working with you, that's who I'm looking for. Thank you guys for watching Community Leo Watch, watching Leos. That's law enforcement officers from coast to coast. The link will be in the description box below. If you go to the bottom of that story and click documents link, it'll take you to what I just read you. And there's more. You guys are going to be like, whoa. Thank you for watching on this Throwback Thursday.